My question relates to the furloughs on the bill. It starts, I think, at the bottom of page 3, and then it continues. So on page 4, line 2, and I think what it says is that the districts can implement furloughs as long as the commissioner certifies that the district would receive less funding for that year than was provided in the 2010-2011 year. Right?
I'm sorry, could you, my page didn't have numbers on it, so I'm not with you.
At the bottom of page 3, when we start with section 5, section 21.4021 is the section on furloughs.
Right.
Okay, if you read through that and then you go to the next page on 4, at the top it says, it has 2010-2011 school year. The question is, the districts can implement furloughs as long as the commissioner certifies that the district will receive less funding for that year than was provided in 2010 and 2011?
That's right.
And so, even if the legislature adds, in the subsequent years, adds money, so if it's more money than what we have this year,
10, 11.
or you know, say that it, you know, Lord help us, but hopefully it doesn't take that much. I mean, we were looking at 4 years to get back up, but
I don't know
if it takes us.
Have you seen the home sales lately?
And you know, if it takes us longer, so even if we're able to start measuring up and start putting that. What we're doing now is using this as a baseline, and as long as it's less than this school year, they have the ability to furlough.
That's correct.
Well, and this is my worry. Do you remember in 2003 when we were short money, when we had a definite, we had a fiscal crisis in 2003, and we couldn't fund higher education. So what we said was, rather than the legislature set tuition for our colleges and universities, that we would allow the regents to do so, saying that it would be, you know, we couldn't give them money, but it's okay, they can go get it from the students. What I'm worried about is this could be a permanent tool, and it would disincent the legislature to put more money back in the schools because they'd be expected to mitigate it. It's kind of like, what I feel is we're almost like abdicating our responsibility, because to me it's just like tuition dereg on the higher ed side. Once we had that, we have never gotten back to the level of funding, because we could always punt it to the region. We could punt it to this. And so what I'm worried about, I know that there's a good argument for authorizing salary reductions and unpaid furloughs, because it's better than being fired. It's better than layoffs. But I'm worried that what we're doing is really creating, I mean, I understand what's the problem this next 2 years, but I don't know that we'll ever get back, because then they'll just say, well, furloughs become the new normal. Furloughs become the new normal. And I worry that there's that with both the furloughs, salary reductions, because there's no floor anymore for your minimum salary schedule, that this set of flexibility becomes like tuition dereg for us in higher ed. We'll never get them back up, because we'll punt it to the local school boards. And that's my fear. I know what happens in the 2-year frame, and I would feel much more comfortable if we would put everything in a 2-year framework and then come back and revisit it. But I think that this lets future legislatures, even if I'm here, off the hook for getting that number up, because, oh, no, they can salary reduce, they can furlough, they can do this, just like we did tuition dereg in higher ed, and we've never gotten that back up. And so that's my fear. But is there anything in this bill that says that layoffs will not occur if the authority to cut pay is used by school districts first? Or can school districts lay off teachers as well as cut pay? In other words, there's not an either or. It's just a tool. It's a tool, so they can do anything.
For clarification, Senator Vandepute, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I bridle a little bit about when we talk about punting to a local school board as a liability or a pitfall. The people of the state of Texas in over 1,000 districts elect a board of trustees essentially to run that district and to make the decisions about that district and their employees. To talk about punting to a school district as if it is some liability to this body or people of the state of Texas, I don't think is correct. A number of people who are in this body were in school boards. They didn't get their intellect or their ability just because they got elected to the legislature. The people of the state, what we're talking about punting to a school board is what the people of the state of Texas elect those boards of trustees for.
Let me correct my statement. If you thought that I was dissing school trustees, believe me.
I did and do.
No, that's not it. I'm dissing the legislature.
We deserve it.
I'm dissing the members of the legislature because in the framework, in 2003, we didn't have any funds. We were in a fiscal crisis. Who took the brunt of that was higher ed. And what we did is we gave them this new tool called tuition deregulation, abdicating the legislature's responsibility to fully fund universities because we gave them the tool of allowing the regents to set tuition, right? So what I'm saying, I am perfectly fine with those local trustees making the decisions. I have supported local trustees and that local decision making, and in fact was one of the only members of the legislature when we had that federal stimulus money that preferred that we not dictate that it go all to salary or half. I wanted local school districts to decide. So my diss, and forgive me if I communicated it wrong, sometimes I do not communicate as well or clarify. My diss is not to the school districts, it's to the legislature, that we're punting to them, abdicating our responsibility to fully fund public schools. And when I was here in 2003, when we made that decision on higher ed, we said, well, we'll do that, but we'll still, the legislature will continue its responsibility. And guess what's happened? We have never caught up to the levels of funding with per capita and with anything. And in fact, tuition has increased 72% since that. And so my worry is, given legislative history, is that we abdicate our role as legislators to fully fund higher ed, which we did in 2003 by giving them a tool. And my fear is, and maybe it's just me, giving these tools and the flexibility, they need it for these next 2 years. But I worry that keeping it permanently in statute, that this legislature, and it's all of us, I'm dissing us, that we abdicate our responsibility to fully fund schools when we come back in 2013 because we go, oh, they got furloughs. Oh, they don't have to go by the minimum salary schedule. Oh, they got this. And so what I'm saying is that I think it lessens what my grandmother used to call the want to get back up to the levels. Believe me, I am not dissing local school board members. I just think that it gives the legislature the opportunity to weasel out of their responsibilities.
I appreciate the clarification, Senator Shapiro.
Yes.